At my sister's birthday party, she humiliated me, called me useless in front of everyone. My family laughed until her boss walked in, looked at me, and said, "Hi, boss." The entire room froze. A book. How thoughtful. I guess when you don't have a real job, you have lots of time to read. My sister Claire said it loud enough for everyone to hear at her 32nd birthday party last Saturday, March 16th, 2024, in her downtown Chicago loft with its floor-to-ceiling windows and exposed brick and furniture that cost more than my car. She was opening presents in front of 20 people, family, co-workers, friends from her gym, and she'd just unwrapped the book I'd brought, a hardcover on innovative marketing strategies that had cost me $45 and that I'd thought she'd actually appreciate since she never stopped talking about her career. A few people laughed. Not loud, uncomfortable laughs, polite, knowing laughs that said they agreed with her, that they'd been thinking the same thing, that someone had finally said what everyone was too polite to mention. I forced a smile, my face hot. "I thought you'd enjoy it. The author's work on consumer psychology is really, I'm sure I would enjoy it if I had time to sit around all day reading like some people." She set the book aside like it was junk mail and turned to our cousin Amy with a theatrical sigh. "Unlike my sister, I actually have to work for a living. 60-hour weeks, client presentations, real responsibilities." More laughter, louder this time. My mom, standing by the kitchen island with a glass of white wine, chimed in with that proud voice she reserved exclusively for Claire. She's been so busy with her promotion. Senior marketing manager now, the youngest in her division, all those late nights finally paid off. Dad nodded from his spot near the window, looking at Claire like she'd just won an Olympic medal. "We're very proud. Not everyone can handle that kind of pressure, that kind of responsibility." He didn't look at me when he said it, but the implication hung in the air like smoke. Not everyone, meaning me. Claire smiled, that perfect smile she'd been practicing since high school, when she'd figured out that confidence and cruelty could wear the same expression. Exactly. Some people are just built for success. They thrive under pressure. They create value. She paused, looked directly at me. And others are just kind of there, existing, taking up space. My face burned. I could feel 20 pairs of eyes on me, cataloging my reaction, deciding whether to laugh or look away. "I run my own business, Claire." "Oh, please," she laughed, a bright, dismissive sound. "You do freelance consulting from your couch. That's not a business. That's a hobby that occasionally pays your rent, if you're lucky. I make good money." "Doing what?" "Emailing corporations with advice they could Google themselves, making PowerPoints for middle managers who are too busy to do it themselves." She turned to her co-workers, two women in designer dresses who worked in her department. "My little sister thinks sending professional emails makes her a businesswoman. It's adorable, honestly." Someone snorted. I saw my Aunt Linda look down at her drink, pretending she hadn't heard. Claire was on a roll now, emboldened by the laughter, by the attention, by the fact that our parents were nodding along like she was delivering a TED Talk instead of systematically humiliating me. "You're 30 years old, Megan. No office, no team, no benefits, no 401k. You work from home in sweatpants doing what exactly? Mom and Dad are too polite to say it, but we're all thinking it." She leaned forward, voice dropping to that fake concerned tone that was somehow worse than open cruelty. "When are you going to get a real job? You're completely useless at this whole adult career thing." Useless. The word landed like a slap. Around the room, people shifted uncomfortably, suddenly fascinated by their drinks or their phones or the view out Claire's expensive windows. I grabbed my coat from the chair where I'd left it. My hands were shaking, but I kept my face neutral, kept my voice steady. "I should go." "Oh, don't be so sensitive," Claire called after me, her voice carrying across the loft. "I'm just being honest. Someone has to tell you the truth. You'll thank me later when you finally get your life together." I was halfway to the door when it opened. A man in a charcoal suit walked in, mid-40s, salt and pepper hair, the kind of expensive haircut that costs $200 and looks effortless. He had a leather portfolio under one arm, and the confident stride of someone who was used to being the most important person in any room he entered. David Chen, Claire's boss, VP of marketing for her entire division at TechCorp Solutions. She'd pointed him out to me once 6 months ago at a company event I'd attended as her +1, had whispered reverently about how intimidating he was, how he'd built the marketing department from scratch, how everyone was terrified of disappointing him, how getting on his bad side meant your career was over. He stopped when he saw me, blinked, then smiled, warm, genuine, the smile of someone seeing an old friend. "Megan." "Hi, boss." The entire room froze. 20 people went completely silent. Conversations died mid-sentence. Someone's wine glass stopped halfway to their mouth. The only sound was the ambient noise of downtown Chicago traffic filtering through Claire's expensive windows. Claire's face went white, then red, then white again. "What?" David walked over to me, completely at ease, and shook my hand like we were greeting each other at a professional conference. "Didn't know you'd be here. Small world. You doing okay? You look like you were leaving." I nodded, my throat tight. "Just heading out." "Good to see you, David." He turned to face the room, his smile fading into something more professional, more pointed. I'm guessing from the silence that no one here knows that your sister is the reason our entire division didn't collapse last quarter. Complete, suffocating silence. My mom's wine glass had stopped moving entirely. Dad's expression had frozen somewhere between confusion and dawning horror. She's the consultant we brought in to fix our marketing strategy after the Riley campaign disaster. You remember that, Claire? The $15 million client we nearly lost because our acquisition funnel was fundamentally broken and our retention metrics were abysmal. Claire's mouth opened, closed, no sound came out. Your sister worked 18-hour days for 2 months straight, personally rebuilt our entire customer journey framework, redesigned our segmentation strategy from scratch, then pitched the revised campaign to Riley's C-suite herself when our internal team was too rattled to do it. He paused. Let that sink in. She saved us $15 million and probably 5 people's jobs, including yours actually, since you were the project lead when it started failing. My mom looked like she'd been slapped. Dad's face had gone from red to purple. Aunt Linda was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. In fact, David continued, his voice casual but carrying effortlessly across the silent loft, she's so good at what she does that we've hired her for 3 more projects this year. The board specifically requested her, by name. They turned down our internal team and insisted on bringing her back. He looked at me, his expression softening. You still not interested in coming on board full-time? We'd create a position for you. VP of Strategic Consulting, your own team, corner office. I smiled, finding my voice. I like my freedom and my sweatpants. He laughed. Can't blame you. Though we'd pay you twice what we pay Claire here. He said it casually, like he was commenting on the weather, but the words detonated in the room like a grenade. Twice what we pay Claire. My Aunt Linda suddenly found her phone absolutely fascinating. My Uncle Tom coughed, a forced sound that was trying to fill the silence. Claire's co-workers were staring at their shoes like the floor had become incredibly interesting. Claire stood there, frozen, her face cycling through expressions too fast to catalog. Shock, humiliation, rage, disbelief. David checked his watch, a Tag Heuer that probably cost more than Claire's monthly rent. I should get going. Just wanted to drop off that contract for the Singapore project. He pulled an envelope from his portfolio and handed it to me. The board approved the full budget, $200,000 for 6 months of work. It's yours if you want it. No pressure, but they were very clear that you're their first choice. Only choice, actually. I took the envelope, my hands steadier now. Thanks. I'll look it over this weekend. Perfect. Take your time. And Claire, he turned to my sister, his tone shifting to something more businesslike, more distant. Don't forget our check-in Monday morning, 9 a.m. I'll need your Q3 numbers ready and your revised forecast for the Morrison account. We're behind schedule and the client's getting nervous. He nodded to the room, a polite acknowledgement of the audience he'd just demolished. Nice meeting you all. Enjoy the party. He left. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded impossibly loud in the continued silence. 20 people stood frozen in a downtown loft, processing what had just happened, recalibrating everything they'd thought they knew about me, about Claire, about the hierarchy they'd constructed in their minds. I looked at my sister, at her perfect makeup that had taken her probably an hour to apply, at her designer dress, Rice, I recognized it from the window display, probably $400, at her carefully curated life built on the foundation of being better than me, more successful than me, more valuable than me. Enjoy your party, Claire, I said quietly. I walked out. My phone started buzzing before I reached the elevator. Text after text, the notifications piling up so fast, my phone vibrated continuously. Mom, why didn't you tell us? We had no idea you were doing such important work. Dad, Megan, we should talk. I didn't realize you were working with Claire's company. We're very proud. Aunt Linda, I always knew you were doing well. So impressive. Cousin Amy, OMG, that was insane. Claire's face, I'm dying. Claire, we need to talk. Please, this is important. Claire again. Megan, answer me. Claire again. You're being childish. I was joking earlier. You know that. I turned my phone off, dropped it in my bag, took the elevator down 32 floors to street level where the March evening was cold and clear and I could finally breathe. When I got home to my apartment in Lincoln Park, the one bedroom I'd been renting for 3 years, the one Claire had called cute in that tone that meant small and sad, I made tea, changed into actual sweatpants, and opened the envelope David had given me. Contract for the Singapore project, 6 months of consulting work, restructuring TechCorp's entire Asia-Pacific marketing strategy. Compensation, $200,000 plus expenses. Travel included. Team of junior consultants reporting to me. Direct line to the board. At the bottom, a yellow sticky note in David's handwriting. Claire tried to pitch for this project last week. Told the board she could handle it internally. Save the consulting fees. They said no. They want you. Thought you should know. D. I sat on my couch in my sweatpants in my cute apartment and smiled. $200,000. Twice what Claire made in a year. For doing exactly what she'd mocked. Consulting from my couch. Sending emails. Making PowerPoints. Being useless. My phone, still off, sat on the coffee table. candle. I didn't turn it back on. Let them wait. Let Claire sit in her expensive loft with her 20 guests who'd just watched her humiliation, who'd just learned that the sister she'd spent years dismissing was actually the one keeping her division afloat. Useless. She'd called me useless in front of everyone who mattered, and her boss had called me irreplaceable. I picked up the book I'd given her. I'd bought 2 copies, one for her and one for myself. Opened it to the chapter on strategic positioning and competitive advantage. Started reading. Because I had time. Because I didn't have a real job. Because I had something better. The freedom to choose my work, the leverage to name my price, and the satisfaction of knowing that the golden child had just discovered she'd been living in my shadow all along.